What's going on, everyone? Let's talk about CNN 10 for May 24th. The first story is the 10-year anniversary of the worst tornado since tornadoes were being recorded. And that happened in Joplin, Missouri in 2011. Here are some statistics. It was an EF5. So tornadoes are ranked like from 1 to 5. There is no 6. So 5 is the absolute worst. And how many people died? 161 people in this small town of about 50,000. So they estimate that about 82% of the homes did not have basements, which led to the high number of deaths and casualties, injuries as well. Because in a tornado, I lived in Alabama. I'm going to talk about an Alabama tornado that I witnessed the destruction of. But I lived in Alabama for almost 8 years. And Alabama is known for having tornadoes. We had many tornadoes when I lived there. Thankfully, my neighborhood was never destroyed. But when I was student teaching, I wasn't a teacher yet, some of a neighborhood near the school was destroyed. So a lot of kids lost their homes there. And my wife has 2 grandmothers, and they both lost homes to EF5 tornadoes. Well, at least I thought so until this morning, and I did some research, and it seems like one of them might have been a really big EF4. So not quite the EF5 yet. But Joplin, it was also the most costly tornado ever at like $3 billion. So one little town experienced all this destruction. Now, a month before that, back in 2011, it was April 27th, 2011, where I used to live, where I worked, where I went to school, Tuscaloosa and Birmingham, Alabama, also experienced a major tornado. And my wife owned a house at the time. She still does, but it's a different house because the house is no longer there. She owned a house in Alabama that was destroyed. I think 67 people lost their lives in that. And what made that so difficult, it was a series of tornadoes that went through the area throughout the day. And I know the guy that was living in my wife's house, the tornado came through and knocked out power. It knocked out communication. So when the next tornado came through and actually destroyed the house, there was no warning system. If you live down south, you get used to hearing the air raid sirens. That means the place where you're at is actually experiencing a tornado warning. That means a tornado has been spotted quite near to where you're at. A tornado watch is very different. Like sometimes living down south or in Joplin, Missouri, you might have a tornado watch for like 3 days. It just means the conditions are right for a possible tornado. So a lot of people don't really pay attention to tornado watches. And in Joplin, they think that was another reason why so many people were killed, is that they heard the air raid sirens, they heard the tornado warnings, and there have been so many like false alarms that people didn't pay attention until it was too late. That it was different for Tuscaloosa, Birmingham tornado. It was a massive tornado, and but it was a series of tornadoes that day. I forgot how many, but maybe close to 100 throughout that area. So big, small tornadoes. Yeah, it was really bad. I wish I tried to share my screen with you, but it's some Facebook photos that I took like 10 years ago. So I just have to like kind of put them up to the screen like this. But this is the neighborhood that we went to because we had to fly back down just a couple days later after the tornado came through because, you know, like she owned the house. We had to take care of the insurance and all that stuff and then start the cleanup process. But that's the house, and that's a brick structure. Her grandfather built it. back in the day. So a lot of it actually did survive the structure, but not all of it. And unfortunately, the roof was just like blown off, and so debris came in, water came in. So the house was just like absolutely totaled. Let's see another picture. Like this is remember I was taking this in 2011, so but that was the backyard. I don't need anything from Newsella. That's the backyard. It's just like neighbors' property is all over the place. I just want to show you one more picture if I can, if my phone cooperates here. Two more pictures maybe. They're all kind of just, but these were some like four-wheelers in our backyard. We don't know whose four-wheelers they were. We asked the neighbors, "Hey, are you missing some four-wheelers?" No, who knows where they came from, but they were heavy machines blown pretty far away. This is standing in the kitchen, so like you can see there is a wall there, and then there's part of the roof, but also part of it is it's just gone. And it was a super nice house before, but we had to go through. Oh, there's the Red Cross coming through. As we were cleaning up, they would come by with a bullhorn saying, "Hey, does anybody need food?" They had prepared meals and stuff. The National Guard was there, and so there was a curfew. We could only be in the house or at the house. It's hard to go in it anymore. So we were at the house during daylight hours. We had to get out of there, but like there were guns and people were, because they were afraid looters would come in and steal people's stuff. Like you couldn't lock the doors anymore. And I think one thing that if you've never experienced a tornado like that, one thing that you might not realize is, of course, the electricity's like gone. Right after the storm, roads pretty much no longer exist because trees are blown down, debris. So if you need an ambulance, this is right after the storm. We were not in Alabama when the storm happened, but it's just like power lines are in the way. So getting to people who need help directly after a major tornado like Joplin, Missouri, or the Birmingham tornadoes, it's just chaos. So my brother-in-laws, they knew that there was somebody living in the house, and they knew that's the house they grew up in, and they knew that it was just destroyed. So and it happened at night, happened right before the sun went down. So they described just trying to get to the house. They were, they could only drive so far. They had to crawl over debris, watch out for downed wires, but they were like cell phones weren't working. It was just crazy. The other thing that people might not talk about is there's no bathroom anymore. So when you are there and cleaning up and if you're a guy, I'll just go pee behind a tree. Yeah, there are no trees anymore. That was the case for us. It was just like full sun. It's just insane. It's hard to comprehend unless you've never been there. So things like insulation in the wall, like in between the walls, that stuff's blown all over the place. It's just Mother Nature does not care. We'll just toss your things all over the place. So tornadoes are pretty scary. I've seen some in the air. They've never touched down. I have heard some come over my house. Luckily, it never touched down, but you'll hear people saying it sounds like a freight train. And it does. It's like, oh, I thought we were down in the basement, but we could still hear the rumbling. So, and I had just mentioned 82% of the homes in Joplin, Missouri, the other tornado, they didn't have a basement. And most houses in the South really don't have basements. It doesn't get warm enough that you would need a basement to worry about, the foundation cracking as much. We need them up here, basements mostly, because the ground just shifts so much with the water inside, the earth, the ground. When it freezes, it expands. When it thaws, it goes back down to normal, which is why this time of year, you'll see a lot of potholes in the roads. So, and they'd say to go into the bathroom. right? Go into the bathroom if you can, put a mattress, go into the tub, put a mattress over yourself. And because the bathroom is usually, or a closet, the bathroom is usually a pretty small room with small walls. They're usually interior walls, like on the inside. So those are safe places to go. And if any debris falls on you, that mattress might prevent you from getting cut. Oftentimes it's glass that is flying around. Hey, thank you. Forgot my charger. My son just brought it. It's his birthday. So, happy birthday.
You like the thing on the table?
I did.
Happy birthday, did.
Yeah, I messed up. I made a mistake.
I can tell.
I gave my son I wrote a card today and I ripped it and I spelled happy HAPY, and then instead of dad I put did, and just to be dumb, just hopefully to make him laugh. I think he seemed like he liked it. Yeah. The next story here is the U.S. and China. They don't play nice together. China just landed a rover on the moon. No, further away. On Mars, just like the US did. So we talked about the Soviet Union and the United States in the 1960s having this space race, see who could get to the moon first. USA won. But now there might be a new space race involving Mars and not the moon. China has plans to land humans on on the moon, maybe eventually on Mars. But so you'll see that there's a guy from NASA, that's the US's space agency, and you'll hear him say, hey, we need to get off our duff. We need to start working a little harder to keep up with the Chinese. But the US does not want to work with China because they're very scared. If they do, China has been known to spy on the United States. Maybe not so much. Maybe we don't want to share too much intelligence with them. I was actually talking yesterday with someone who is in the military, like currently, and he was like, yeah, we've been told by our superiors that we can't have TikTok. It's like, whoa, why? Chinese company. They might be spying on us. I don't know. And the UAE. We haven't talked too much about that country, but if you've ever heard of Dubai, the United Arab Emirates, sometimes you'll hear it as UAE. Yeah, I guess they didn't put a rover, nothing on Mars, but they did send a satellite to orbit Mars. So it seems like there's a lot of activity on Mars right now. The US has a rover there, the Chinese have a rover, and the UAE, they have a satellite. So kind of crazy. And the last story, it's a great story. You're going to meet a guy, committed some crimes. From the sound of it, it sounded like he dealt some drugs, got into a lot of trouble, actually. And the statistics are, at least for New York State, if you commit a felony, 40 to 60% of those people are going to commit another crime. So in today's CNN Heroes, the idea is this man rehabilitated himself through fitness. So you'll see him. He's kind of buff. He's kind of swole. He believes totally in fitness, and he had trouble. When he got out of jail, he wanted to get a job and not sell drugs anymore. The money was probably pretty good, but he was going to go back. He was going to get caught again. So he's like, okay, maybe I can't make as much money as I used to, but I'm into fitness. He got really into fitness in prison. He said it made him feel so much better about himself. It increased his self-worth, the idea of himself just through lifting weights, working out. He felt so much better about himself. He wanted to get a job in a gym, but he'd been to prison. And so on the job application, when he put that he was, a former felon, they didn't want to hire him. But he didn't give up. It's a story of being persistent. And when he finally got that job, he said for 4 years, he never took the day off. And now what his job is, he is trying to increase people's self-confidence through fitness. And his program will give people a free tablet and free transportation to get to the gym, free classes, just so people will be less likely to return back to prison. Yeah. Oh, and the last one, the last story is call it like A Star is Born, and that is actually like star in the sky. So like Mars, like in the sky, way off, a sun way off. Well, there's this like supercomputer that colorized what it might look like as a star is being born. All the massive clouds and dust coming together to form a star. So that's it. A little bit longer today, but there won't be a whole lot besides this. Watch CNN, this, maybe one other little video after that, but that's about it. Have a good rest of the day. Adios, amigo.